Yeah, I want to say hi to Eric too. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Eric. Bruce, you want to say hello to Eric?
Hey, Eric.
Ralph?
Thanks for joining us. Eric, get off my lawn.
There you go. Sparky 107 wants to know how can he get to watch A Model Is Life or listen to A Model Is Life? How can he do that?
If he goes to amodelerslife.com, there's links there to the free site, which is Libsyn and iTunes, and there's other. You can get it on Google Play. He can get it on TuneIn and Spotify. But if he goes to the website, amodelerslife.com, there's links right there.
Zappa Gap.
Yeah. It's a CA type glue. Kevin said Flexifile plastic weld. And Ron was saying MEK.
No, I can use. No, I can weld with acetone. That works. It's beautiful. But I can't print this job in ABS. It has to be PLA.
So what I have here is, you'll see that I've got 9 different LEDs on here, and they're just kind of slowly changing. One comes on, one comes off.
See, something's going on with my camera here.
Kind
Can
of
you
a
hear
slow
me?
pace.
Oh yeah.
And we can sit here all night watching this
Black
very slowly
screen. Let me
go.
figure out what's
If
going
you
on
actually
here.
had these in Windows,
I go up to the
in
camera
your different
settings
buildings,
at
or
the
even
top,
one in each different building, doesn't
reselect
even
it
have
and
to
save
be
it.
Windows in the same building.
Hey,
Then
Jeff.
you'd want it to go this slow, or maybe
doing,
even
guys?
slower.
Yeah, very good.
And that's about the only thing I'm going to have to show you in the sketch. So we're going to go back to that real quick. Actually, let's build this thing first. So I just put it together so that you could see what we're going to end up doing. And what I'm going to do is just unplug my Arduino and tear this thing apart real.
Yeah, Mr. Jason.
Jason. Doing a lot better today than last couple weeks.
Good to hear.
Yeah. Jaw ain't hurt. Made it through. Tough point on that part, but and also got a new toy.
Cool. Excellent.
Ta-da!
Ooh. Very pretty.
I haven't even got it out of the box to run yet. So I am hoping sometime soon I'll put it on this test track here. Fire her up.
I just bought myself those Atlas Cato Chain C425s. I got 3 of those and an RS11 for like $160 off of eBay, and they ran beautifully.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Well, am I coming in or not? Yep, there it is. It finally made it. Alrighty. We already got a few people in here, like Dave being SFN Scale, Jerry, Ashley. How you doing, Jerry? Hey, Mark, how you doing? Hadn't seen you around in a while. Marty. And, yeah. Troy, how's everything going out there on the West Coast? Yeah, I know, Marty. I forgot to mute the microphones. That's all right. You didn't get to hear nothing juicy anyway, so. We got Jason and Stu and Joe over here on the panel. And, hey, there I am. Well,
There you are.
I'm forgetting everything tonight.
Since everybody heard us, can anybody guess what Jason got?
Yeah, we ain't telling. It was good. Even the vanilla
You'll have to get it
icing.
fixed.
Hey, Mr. Bob, how you doing?
Oh, okay. Let me get the volume down. Doing okay. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, Troy said lots of rain over there. Yeah, we'll be getting a lot of rain over here too. Didn't rain today, but it's going to start back again tomorrow for a couple of days, and they'll quit for 2 days and another 3 or 4 days. It's going in spurts now.
Yeah, well, our snow's melting at least finally.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at 10-day forecast. We're supposed to start warming up. Not
Yeah,
showing
we'll be in
any.
Virginia next week. It's going to be in the 60s down there almost all week.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I went and checked the mail today, and I got a postcard. It's from the Southeast Premier Train Show. This is the one that's put on by the Piedmont Division, I believe. Yep, Piedmont Division, National Mall Railroad Association. Going to be next weekend, March 16th to 17th, 2-day show. It's usually a pretty good show. They have local vendors there and layouts running. They got a junior layout, they said, a raffle, white elephant tables. it's not a bad show. I'll probably try to get down there one day, either Saturday or Sunday. Do the layouts.
I hadn't been to a good train show in a long time.
Yeah.
Used to go to the ones at Timonium Fairgrounds. It's in Baltimore, Maryland, the state fairgrounds, and it's several acres of trains under a roof when they do them. It's an awesome show. It's been a while since I'm able to get up there.
Yeah.
I used to go to all the Greenberg train shows in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. I really miss going to a train show. Especially living in Tennessee, they have only really, really small ones compared to the big convention center kind.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can get those guys that are selling their personal stuff though at the smaller shows and get better deals on a lot of stuff a lot of times.
Yeah, we just had one here. It's a one-day show. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. Everybody just brings their stuff in to sell. And there were no deals to be had, I guarantee it. Because even if you did find something, they wanted about 2-3 times retail.
Yeah, a lot of them are that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this one here is coming up. It's not too bad. I've been to it a couple of times, and they've had some pretty good stuff there. But
I don't buy things unless they're steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Virginia. Right before Christmas, there was a small show down there, and it probably had 20, 30 vendors. It wasn't that big, some small layouts, but there was a couple of people that their husbands had died and a dad had died, and they were selling off collections and just, tons of stuff extremely cheap. And I bought a bag that probably had, oh my God, I don't know how many painted people in it for like $5. There was a few hundred people in there pre-painted.
Huh.
It's like, I hate painting people. They're just so small. I can't see anymore either. It's like,
yeah, really.
Forget the pupils and the eyeballs,
Yeah.
I think that goes for a lot of people, not just age.
Well, yeah. It definitely age. It isn't helping me any, though.
Yeah.
I'm 30 and I can't see anything half the time.
It's I always use help. I've got my visors and everything, but even sometimes with those, it's still a chore.
Yeah, you're trying to look for more light to put on it.
Yeah, I did buy some of those. They look really weird, but they're real small. Binocular type glasses that you can adjust each lens, and there's little LEDs mounted on just either side of the outsides of the man. I mean, you've got to get extremely close on something to work with that, but you could probably, etch whiskers on a dime if you wanted to or something. But great tool though.
Yeah, we have a few more pop in. Dave, Lee, Brian, Gaffa. He and Marty are down in Australia. Here come Michael. So, any of y'all watch that Mall Railroading Views show? Is the Hobby Dying? Is the first segment. It's got 3 segments to it. What did you think about it? Wow. Nobody speak up at one time, okay?
I didn't see it.
Had a chance to see it on not live, but last night I got a chance to view it, and it seemed to be pretty good. What they're saying is pretty much true, all I can say is the industry is changing so rapidly. They're making the companies are making their products better, but they're pricier.
Yeah.
The one hobby shop I found down here, the gentleman said he's having a terrible time selling train cars at the prices they're coming out at, and he goes, I can't sell a train car if it's over like $25 or something like that. So he's he's having problems that way. But
I won't even buy them at 25. But
hey, you guys were talking about train shows. I'm in the Knoxville area, and they're telling me they're few and in between around this area. And,
yeah, they are.
And I came from Chicago, and there was like every month we had some sort of train show going on up there, and I kind of miss it right now. Used to going to the swap meet and spend a good amount of money, so it's kind of like withdrawal. I miss it dramatically.
I was going through a lot of the stuff that I own and thinking, man, I need to get rid of this, and this, and this. And I found a few boxes of stuff that over the years just, I've got with collections and stuff I've bought. And there's no train shows around here to take them to sell them. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to do it online or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. eBay has been my best friend in the past 4 or 5 months.
I buy a lot on eBay, but the problem is they take such a chunk of money if you're selling off the sale price now that, I mean, once you sell it and they take their chunk off, you're not getting, a percentage of what you should be getting in your pocket.
I agree.
I like buying on there.
I remember I bought, I think, at least, I don't know, I would say about 50 new pieces of rolling stock, and it probably cost me more in shipping than anything else.
Yeah. Years ago, I bought a lot of brass on there. I spent $5,000 one year just buying brass on there years ago before brass went up. I'm glad I did, because now I couldn't do it.
Right.
Yeah, real quick, I want to jump in. I noticed Leland Ford, he said, hey, guys. And he's in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Hey, Leland, I'm over here in Gainesville. We ought to get together someday for lunch.
Not far from Tennessee.
Yeah, Lawrenceville isn't that far from me. Yep. Well, where I'm at, it'll probably take me about maybe 40 minutes to drive over that way, depending on which side he's on.
I'm in West Virginia. No matter where you're at, you have to go somewhere else before you can come here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm kind of in between towns myself, but I have to go into one town, do one thing, go into another town, do some other stuff. Mm-hmm. So, Marty said it's lunchtime.
He likes to brag about it too.
I got to see the show too, and everything that was said on there, I agree. Like everything is going now internet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like us. Ken Patterson, what's the guy over in the West Coast? John, can't remember his name now. Batacola, yeah, John Batacola. He's doing good shows. Steve Brown, he was on the show. Yeah, there's all kinds of. There's more outlets than there was back when it was just Model Railroader and Model Railroader Craftsman and all that, just magazines.
Definitely puts information out there. I mean, we wouldn't have channels and be doing this if we weren't helping other people and people weren't learning. So it definitely gives you access to more information than we used to have.
Yeah.
And now you can share personal layouts. You can share personal ideas, personal tips. Personal collections, instead of looking at the phone book, try to find somebody, just call everybody and say, hey, are you a model railroader?
Yeah, you can come in, ask questions, get answers right then too, so get help on stuff. Leland, yes, I do remember you now. We did talk for a few minutes. Yeah, we definitely need to get together. If you want to, you can email me at southeastrails@gmail.com. Yep.
I think the one thing that
go ahead
does bother me to some degree, though, is they talk about everybody in the hobby getting older, and we need to be pushing little kids into toy trains and stuff a lot more, I think, to help the hobby survive long term.
Yeah.
Hey, Lloyd.
I agree.
I agree with that too.
Hey, Johnny.
You available Saturday night?
Yeah, we have a meeting Saturday night. No?
Yeah, recording.
Oh, recording.
Yeah.
But don't we have a meeting on Saturday night?
Nah.
Okay.
I do have a question. I'm not sure if this was mentioned in those videos, but do you think the new train sets, especially starter sets, are affordable for people just joining the hobby?
Yeah, out there at Train Master, the hobby shop, his usually run, between about 100 to 150. But they're a lot better running. They have more detail to them. Yeah. I mean, when you consider you get a locomotive, probably, 3 to 4 cars, a power pack, and enough track to make at least, about 6 foot oval to get started out with. It's not too bad a deal.
No.
It depends what you want to do, because I showed someone that with $500 you could buy you can make a 2x8 switching, those puzzles.
Yeah.
With less than $500. It depends what you want. Like, for example, you could buy a styrene sheet of 4x8 for $18 and build your own buildings. You could go to what do you call it, shows, and get cars for $10, $5, $10. And over the year, you teach the kids, let's say, to change the wheels, the wheel set, the couplers, and you got to do it over time. Now, today people just want everything now, and they want the best. So yeah, it's costing a lot, but there's no need for that. If you're going to get kids involved, teach them. I go back like for example, the Scouts. When you were in Scouts, you had badges because you did something. Well, show them how to build a building. It might take a month or 2 months. Show them how to build a 2x6 or a 2x8 frame, and like dirt from outside. And the hobby could be cheap or expensive. It depends on what you want to do.
Agreed.
All right, real quick, I got a couple of comments in here about that. Also, Leland, yeah, I do plan on going to that train show next weekend, so I'll definitely catch up with you there. Let's see here. Ralph Renzetti, hope you're doing well, Ralph, after your surgery. He was saying, guess up there around him, the starter sets are 125 to 250.
Yeah.
Who was it here? Dave BNSF scale. He said he thinks that YouTube is bringing in the younger modelers. Yeah, because they're used to this internet. That's what they deal with all the time. Charles, yes, but it's just Bachman. Now Cato and Athearn ones have disappeared from the market recently. Huh. I don't know. I hadn't really kept up with them.
I'd introduce kids a lot younger into wooden trains and all kinds of stuff to kind of, bring on that thinking in their mind as far as trains go. But if I was putting together a set for a kid, I would probably just do that, as put together a set rather than buy a starter set for a kid.
Yeah.
You could do so much more for the money than you can buying a box set.
Right.
Yeah, for some people, you know, they'll rather just buy that set because it's got everything there and they don't have to sit there and go out and look for it. But the thing about it is, once you get that, I mean, you know, it's, you can always go back, buy you up some flex track and curves and, you know, start building it from there. There's nothing wrong with keeping the engine and the cars and stuff and that power pack, keep running it for a little while. And like Lloyd said, you could build a half sheet layout, switching layout for not that much to start with. I mean,
the fun part is once you build that switching, then you could add on, like the second year or third year, add on and add on. Then you could have a very interesting layout. But it doesn't have to be all done like tomorrow.
No, absolutely right. Even with me, in my experience, right now I'm concentrating on getting one loop done, and then working on the next loop, and then work on the yards. But that's where the challenge for me is going to come in with track work.
Yeah, I agree, because if you're going to get kids involved and you're just going to put an oval down, at one point the kids are going to get bored. You got to get involved in building stuff and doing stuff. Show them how to make trees. Show them how to make landscape, water. I mean, it's not just about a train running around.
Andrew over here, he could show them how to build a bridge.
Talking about a bridge. Can you see my bridge?
I see that.
Mm-hmm.
I tried the technique salt
weathering, yeah.
Yeah, actually, that looks pretty good as far as the salt weathering goes. I think a lot of people try to do the salt weathering on, you know, cars and everything else, and it's just a little overkill for HO scale. But that on that bridge looks good.
Well, there's a danger of putting too much salt.
Yep.
You can damage the plastic.
I'm going to try something new. There's a kit that they sell. It's 2 liquids or 2 paints. You get the first paint, you give it 2 coats. It's got some iron in it. And then you give 2 coats of the other one, which has oxidized. And you just watch it just turn into rust. It's not given, though.
I've seen some of the military guys use that to some degree. I've never experimented with it. It does sound pretty cool, though.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those military guys have got some of that weathering and painting and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Plus science.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
The other funny thing is what you look at European modelers, rail modelers and everything else, they seem to have scenery down pretty darn good compared to what we.
I agree.
But if you watch their videos on weathering, it looks like they're going to spend a lot of time on the weathering. I mean, it's not done overnight or 2 days or 3 days. You're talking about those guys are working on that one piece for like 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks.
In other words, they're running neck and neck with Mother Nature.
Yeah, well, Marty's comment to that was just like my car. Just sit and watch it turn into rust. Sitting in the driveway.
But remember, too, they're working on 1 or 2 pieces versus a 100-car train, too.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about is the hobby dying? And I remember looking at a study, I think is what it was, or a survey back in 2007, 2008, right around the depths of the recession. It was put out by the Hobby Manufacturers Association. And they had a few things, and it's kind of like this is a once in 10 years or something like that study that they, or survey that they did. There were some interesting things that were said about it. About the internet. This is a lot of your local hobby shops, when they finally went to an internet presence, they were very ill-equipped for the the amount of business that they picked up. What else were they saying? Oh, when you looked at that, since it was a Hobby Manufacturers Association, you include model railroading, car building, RC cars, everything else. Some of the other hobbies, sales have dropped off, but model railroading seemed to pick up, hold steady to even pick up. What other ones are there that were interesting in that study? Now, this is something that I have not been able to find it again doing a Google search. Either they must be because it's, it must have got let out to the public when it should have been just to the members or something. But there was some very interesting findings in that one.
I'm curious to see I don't think we'll ever be able to see that statistics, but the old people with the steam locomotive, what I'm trying to say is that the hobby right now will include younger people, but it's all diesel and what they see today.
Yep. Well, I think that's always been the case.
Back, I was born in 1989, and at the time I was collecting Conrail stuff and GP18s and ST40-2s, and I actually kept that. I still model the 90s today, but do I like the new stuff? Absolutely. And I know there's a club, the Wills Valley Model Railroad Club in Fort Payne, Alabama. There's a bunch of guys around 18, 19 years old who just collect nothing but steam engines. So it's very interesting to see that rather.
No, layout. It's in the 70s. Yeah, it's in the 70s. But I'm still gonna have 2 steam locomotives running around like a Sunday special tour, if you want, because I want to have 2 steam locomotive. But if you're gonna ask me anything about steam locomotive, like running, I don't know, let's say 15, 20 locomotives, I wouldn't know where to start because I have no idea how it ran then. And I would probably have to sit down in front of the computer and do all that studying for maybe a year or 2 to find out how it really worked.
See, I was born in 1959, which is the last year that steam ran on the B&O, so I do not remember steam, but that's what I model. If you ask me anything about diesels even today, I mean, I would know a Jeep is not, an Ace or something like that, but I don't know that much about diesels where I can probably tell you tons of stuff about steam because that's what I've dealt with my whole life and studied my whole life.
But I gotta believe you model what you're familiar with.
Most of the time, yeah.
I mean, the first time I was really introduced to anything type of railroad, I grew up in the Detroit area, and what we had was Grand Trunk. And I remember they used to have Jeep 18s, I think is what they were. And then all of a sudden they had a SD40. Oh my, not a -2, but an SD40. So, oh my God, is that thing huge? Look at, man, that thing sounds like just thundering power. And I used to work at a lumberyard. It was, but I used to work at a lumberyard, and we used to get anywhere between 7 and 10 carloads a day. It was the builder yard, and I remember I was always on the team track or unloading the cars, and every now and then we had to move a car with a fork truck. Of course, you work with a partner and everything else. You had what we called the boxcar special, a little fork truck. They used to pick it up with the forks of a bigger truck and put it in there and hand off the plywood and everything else. And I can remember back then, Grand Trunk was still doing the flying switches where, you speed up, disconnect, and then move, and then, they throw the switch and just slide that sucker in. I can remember, was it the high brake wheel? That was when they still had it up there, and they had taken the roof box off, but you still had the, high brake wheels on a lot of cars. But when I got into the hobby and everything else, back then, one thing I hated was boxcar red. Good God, everything was boxcar red. Give me something with some color.
Yeah, well, black. I won't say what year it was, but when I kind of got into it, about all you saw was the Santa Fe in starter sets and most everything else. And yeah, I got tired of the Santa Fe trains real quick. Pennsylvania came out, so I started collecting some of those, but it didn't take too long. I don't know, it's just something about those colors that, I mean, I still got those cars and engines, but I'd rather do something a little different. That's the reason why I collect a lot of the Southern stuff. And Hastings, BNSF N-Scale Modeler, has a comment. Good evening, everyone. Many Europeans have smaller spaces and end up with smaller layouts. They can concentrate and take more time per linear foot of scenery. Just a thought. Well, it's more than just a thought. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, what else I remember is I remember I see in the first SD 45-2, and I thought, oh my God, listen to that sucker wind up and everything else, and I thought that was fantastic. But yeah, if I look at stuff today, you know, everybody with the Gevos and the 90 Max and all that stuff, to me that's foreign. You know, it's what is that? I have no idea. I guess it's big.
Yeah, I mean, I like my steam engines. I've got a couple of them.
Yeah. Now, I had steam, and I probably got rid of them for the same reason that the real railroads did. They were cantankerous. I had a few. I had 2 or 3 shays, and then I had some. I had 2 articulateds, and I had I forgot what else I had. I had a few of them. They were mostly brass, because their alternative was the AHM with the deep wheel flanges. Don't put any ballast down because it won't run.
Yeah.
Because they don't have 125. Code 125 rails that would actually run.
Yeah, I bought one steam engine back when I was early high school, and back then, boy, that was a lot of money because hobby shop was going out of business, and he had on sale. I think I paid around $160 for the thing. Seemed like it was like a 4.8 steam, and the only problem I had with it run, but I had too tight of curves on the layout I had for it, but the front trucks kept jumping. They would bounce up and turn sideways and derail that thing, and I had a heck of a time with it. And finally we had this one hobby shop over in Decatur called Charlie's Attic, and he was mostly train stuff along with a lot of other stuff back in the 60s. But I was out there one day talking to him, and he told me, he said, yeah, you'll probably have to take those trucks off and take the spring out, go over to the hardware store in their spring department, find one a little bit bigger that's got a little more pressure. They'll actually hold those front trucks on the track, so they don't do that. He said it's just that spring's too light.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot of those. Added weights to some of them that were hidden. Played with them in various ways. Yeah, that is a main problem with steam. I just can't pass up 2884s and 2882s, or even the Mikatas and Pacifics. I mean, I've got bunches of them. You know, it's just. Yeah, that's just the time period that I like to model.
Yeah, if you're asking scale or something, I would say, back then when scale came out, I completely dismissed that because, well, it used to be called postage stamp trains.
Yeah,
they were junk.
But aren't steams all black?
But if I had to think about it today, if I was in the hobby, I'd consider it.
Yeah. No, not really, Lloyd. I mean, most of them are black, but you do have some that are a little bit different colors. Some are silver and black. Some of your Southern steam engines were painted a green.
Yeah, right. A lot of times the passenger equipment would paint in premier colors, or if you had something streamlined, a lot of times it would have color to it rather than black.
Right. Like the Southern Pacific Daylight.
Yeah.
Southern Pacific Daylight
Sorry, go ahead.
The Grey Goose for Santa Fe. Trying to think what other ones. Southern.
Great Northern had a couple. B&O had some blues, and they had some greens.
But the vast majority was just like Ford Motor Company. You can get it any color you want as long as it's black.
Yeah. 99% of them, they were pretty much black.
Even the Pennsylvania K4, some of them were green.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, let's see. Dave, BNSF in scale. He said that it depends on your interest. I was not interested in trains until I was a newbie truck driver and saw a string of BN SD40-2s dragging a coal train along the Front Range in Colorado. And Glass over in Japan, how you doing? He said, I've recently been thinking about having a few small dioramas connected by a set of track, but at most, the problem would be I might have to scratch Bill my track, ironically, because he's in that HON 3.5.
Yeah.
Or Hanley his track.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave's BNSF said that all the named trains had colorful logos. And Charles said Hiawatha.
Yep.
That's right. I forgot about that one, yeah.
Most all the Streamline steams usually had color.
Yeah.
The NNW 611 had a little bit, but not much. It was mostly black.
Does anybody have a favorite?
Favorite colored?
Well, favorite. I guess I'd say Streamline steam engine.
The 611.
611.
Oh, I've got one. It's called the Royal Hudson.
Yeah.
Canadian Pacific Royal Hudson in Canada. I'm waiting for it. Rapido's supposed to come out with it.
I keep waiting for somebody to do a Pacific and the B&O Streamline. They had 4 of them, and they were incredible, but they were only ever made in brass one time, and you can't hardly find them.
And if you do find them, you got to pay dearly for them.
Oh, yeah.
Dave Piper said the Jupiter, and Jerry said the CB and Q. Hopefully that's a Q and not a speck on my glasses.
Don't forget about the Canadian Pacific and the Canadian National both had colorful steam engines.
Yeah.
Chicago Northwestern had their 400s.
Yeah. I forget what the color was. The color scheme was that. Was it like an olive green or something? For the 49er?
Well, I was looking at them over here. There is an olive green version, but there's also this one said Dakota 400. I'm looking at it right now. It's yellow on the bottom with the black on the top.
Okay.
Let's see if I can. Where is it?
You want to know the funny thing about the brass locomotives and everything else? This is I used to be a builder or a remodeler, and I never thought anything about it. I'd go to anybody's house and tear open the side of the wall and think nothing of it. But for me to take a brass engine apart to paint it and everything else used to scare the living daylights out of me.
They're a little more work.
And then
yeah, I see what you're talking about, Stu.
Yeah. I prefer yellow, of course.
I know what you mean, Andy. When I did my bridge, I mean, it's not that it's an expensive bridge, but just the thought of screwing up with that salt and the paint, I was so scared. So I had to try it out on a piece of styrene first to see what it would look like.
Now, I'll tell you where I got a bunch of styrene a long time ago. Is I went to a plastic supplier.
Yeah.
And apparently they cut things for customers and everything else. And I walked in there and they had this whole bin full of styrene that was, for them, was probably scrap. And I probably dare say I picked up 30 pounds of styrene for $5.
Oh man.
Different thicknesses and everything. I still got a lot of that stuff sitting downstairs.
Here's one. Y'all been talking about locomotives and all. Wilmer, Indian Head Valley Railroad, he said, how about the cab forwards? Nobody said a word about cab forward.
Yeah, they pretty much. Well, they did have some silver on them, but they were mostly black.
Yeah.
They were just weird cab forward.
They were. Yeah.
How you doing, Tim?
Neat locomotives.
You were talking, Andy. You were talking about the styrene. Yeah, styrene. It's the same thing with the blue or pink foam when you go to a construction site.
Yep.
So much you can pick up, or even plywood.
Plywood, I'd have my druthers about that. When I made the modules and stuff like that, I usually go to a birch plywood, veneer type, that better veneer plywood. There's a couple reasons I do that. If you look at a sheet of 3/4 inch birch plywood, 4x8, it's like $50. But if you get the 3/4 inch, I'm gonna say tongue and groove for flooring, which is basically a fir plywood, you're looking at $40. But when you look at it on the rack in like the Home Depot or any of the stores, the birch plywood is sitting flat. The 3/4 inch, like the subfloor stuff, it's got an arc to it, so there's tension, and there's
more filler in it.
Look at the grain on like your fir plywood. You see the dark yellow stuff, and you see the light yellow stuff. That's your difference between your summer growth and your winter growth when they peel it off. And usually your darker stuff is going to be the winter growth, and a lot of times try to put a spike into that. And it don't go in very well because it is a harder wood. Where using the birch plywood, it's pretty uniform all the way across. So to pick up the plywood off of a job site, I know what you're saying. It's cheap. They want to get rid of it. You're saving them the disposal fee, but are you better off in the long run? I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking more on when people talk about the hobby is expensive. Well, it doesn't have to be. If you're starting for your kids, I understand if you're going to build a layout that's 20 feet by 40 feet, no, do it the right way. But if you're just going to do a 2x6 for your kids, and with time, I mean, most of the stuff you could get is free. So start with that.
And even nowadays, you can go to like the Home Depot, Lowe's, or any of those big box home improvement stores, and a lot of times they'll have a cold lumber pile somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's another thing.
Twisted and everything else, which is another thing I look at. Where I've making the modules, I've gotten away from dimensional lumber almost completely. I mean, I'll still use them for legs because I haven't found another good alternative yet. But when I look at it from a point of view, you go to buy lumber, and what's the first thing you do is you hold it up by the end, and you're looking to see if that sucker's twisted, so it's got a hump in it, or anything else like that. And that's what you're going to deal with later on down the line when you go to build your railroad. Plywood is very stable. And like I say, a lot of this stuff I'm just passing on from what I've known from, like I say, almost 15 years of working in the display business. Very little did we use with actual dimensional lumber.
Yeah, Dave, BNSF said, you get what you pay for with plywood. Birch has no void, so it is a much more stable wood.
Let me put it this way, as far as I'm going to also pull this one into there. I see so many people that build their layouts and they use 1/2 inch CDX for the top. And I cringe. And I'll tell you why. You look at number one, most half-inch CDX that you're going to get in the big box stores is only going to be 3-ply. You're going to have the voids in it. But if you ever look on the back side of a sheet of half-inch CDX, there's 2 numbers on there. If I remember right, it's 32/16. And if you ever know what that stands for, that means if the local codes will allow you to do it, you can span 32 inches on centers on a roof. On a floor, you can span 16 inches on centers. So you're looking at, I think if I remember right, you're looking at a 40 pound per square foot load. So most modelers are overkilling when they put that down. And it's, like I say, with the voids and everything else, and you see so many people with the problems with their crack work and everything else. How come my train keeps falling off at this juncture and that and everything else? I mean, I hate to say it, but when you're spending $100, $150 for a locomotive, $30 to $40 for a car, and then you're going to skimp and say, I'm going to buy this sheet of plywood at $15. You know, it all starts with the foundation. And that's the same way it was with me when I was building. It all starts with the foundation. I can tell you how many times towards the end where I was a finished carpenter, how many face plants I had to do because I had to try to fix up everybody else's screw up from before.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you one instance where I went in and we had to put up some down molding. That was every bit of a 2x8 poplar, about 7 1/4 inches across the face, and they came into us at 10 footers, and in a 10-foot span, I had an 1.5 inch gap at the ceiling, and I got to try to make that look good, and I couldn't do anything. Give me lots of caulk.
yeah. Indian Head Welmer, he said. The concept of the cab forward was to keep the smoke out of the cab, and Dave, being SF, pretty hard to shovel coal into the wrong end of a steamer. Sparky107 said cab forwards, they were all auger fed.
Were they also oil, or were they all coal?
They're mostly oil.
Yeah, they were all oil.
Oil, real definitely, yes.
There was a discussion about that today on one of the Facebook groups. That the cab forwards were pretty much all oil fed.
Were they?
Oil burners.
I thought they might be.
Most of the steam in later days, though, if you look at most all of them were auger fed. They didn't really shovel steam, much coal by the end of steam. It was pretty much all normally fed on its own.
Yeah.
And there you were sounding the knell for the fireman position in the railroad.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, see, that was one of the other conversations on that same thread about the fireman, because the fireman's job was still needed even after they went to the honors because of all the stuff that he monitored besides, what the engineer monitored. The engineer just basically drove the train and monitored a few things, where the fireman was monitoring the steam pressure, water levels, the actual coal level in the tender. He was controlling the speed of that auger. He was making sure the fire was good throughout the whole firebox. It was an even heat. And if he needed to move the coal around, he could. And, watching his water levels and everything.
Yeah.
The fireman's job still wasn't eliminated even when they went to the auger. If anything, he actually gained more responsibility.
Even if they didn't need him, they would have had a job anyway, because it was all union, and the union would have never let him get rid of the job anyway. So he'd always had a job anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, geez, Pete used to look at the train crews back there, and you had the engineer, you had the fireman, you had I get to be the conductor or the head pin and the tail pin, and they were getting ready to stop, so start walking, the roof walks and start cranking down brakes. And then we went to the Westinghouse brakes, and okay, now you didn't need to walk along rooftops. Of course, we didn't have OSHA back then either. Could you imagine what they would have to do today to, to meet OSHA regulations?
Oh my God!
High off, you're over 6 feet off the ground.
Yeah, tied off to that car every time. You had to have a cable running down the length of all the cars just to walk the roof to
enclosed cage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got a little less than 6 minutes, and Jason just typed in over here if anybody could guess what he got new today. There's a couple of you already know here on the panel, so if anybody wants to take a wild guess.
Well, let's see.
If he gets it, he's going to give it to you for free.
And you got a new car.
I see Dwight said a new steam engine.
Close.
And Dave, BNSF, Conrail wood chip.
No.
Nah.
Did you finally invest in the scale trains?
Actually, it's an Athearn.
See, you could have won at least a wheel from it. Now you didn't win anything.
Yeah, Sparky 107. It's a new wife. Traded in now.
Yeah. Nope, not an umbrella. I've been waiting for this for a good month right now. I guess I better just show it.
Yeah, you got less than 3 minutes. Dwight said a new soccer ball.
No more soccer balls for me. All right, here we go.
Ooh.
Well, I was close. I said a new car, but it's a new locomotive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I said a refrigerator. It does run like one. So.
Well, at least the lights work.
Yeah, sound works too.
What that one set you back, Jason?
260.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad.
Yeah.
A car payment.
Yeah.
Man, I sit there and listen to him and says, "Oh, not bad, $260," and I'm coming from an era where an Athearn Blue Box was what, $30? Later, it was maybe up to 35.
Yeah, that was a nice piece of brass in my day.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
That's not much more than it's about $30 more than a new scale train would set you back.
Yeah.
For a rivet counter with the ASU lock sound, so.
Yeah, I forgot I could. Somebody said in the chat, blow screen up.
I got my Spirit of Ravina Monday in the mail.
Real fast, Charles. If you're going to the Atlanta show on Saturday, what time are you going? I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it. I'm just north of there, but I was thinking about either Saturday or Sunday. Probably Sunday is when I'll be out there.
Now, if anybody's going to the Belvedere, Illinois show at the end of March, I'm going to have my bridge there.
I'm going the opposite direction. I'm going up. Well, I'm not complete opposite direction. We're going east.
Yeah. All right. Well, Charles, I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm one of those night people, so I won't be able to get there that early. But have a safe trip from Huntsville. Hope you enjoy the show. Be sure
We're
to
still
go.
planning on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe. We're still planning on going to Strasbourg here at the end of the month.
Yeah, Dave being SF. I'm staying in Arizona.
I can't blame them. I'd stay there too.
So what's the date on that, Andy?
It was set up on the 30th and the 31st night. For some reason, I believe it's also Sunday, which would be the 1st of April. So it's Friday set up, Saturday set up. I gotta believe, if you're setting up a display, it's gotta be before 10 o'clock or something. So I gotta believe the show is from like 10 o'clock Saturday till, I don't know, 5 o'clock, and then I think it also runs Sunday. So, and then I've already thrown my hat in the ring for, I guess in September, they're going to have a Fremo set up at Illinois Institute of Technology down in Chicago. So I'll probably take my bridge over there too.
Hook it up with theirs.
Hook it up with what?
Hook it up with theirs.
Apparently, yeah. They put a call out for modules, and I threw it in there, and I said, okay, that's not too far away from me. It'll kill me with the tolls, but...
Is that going to be part of connected? Is that going to be connected to their model railroad club that they have?
No, I found out something interesting was last weekend. As far as what the Fremo goes, there are no Fremo clubs in the U.S. They're groups.
Right.
So basically, it's kind of like you put the call out for, we're going to set up somewhere and put the call out for modules, and people say, throw their hat in the ring and say, yeah, I'll bring it. I'll bring this and this to that and everything else, and somebody puts it all together.
Okay.
So, no, there's, as far as I know, this is, I don't remember what it was. It was Illinois Institute of Technology, but there is a school. So I think it's a model railroad group that is of students or something like that. But I think the call went out.
It is.
Yeah, they actually have a club. It's on their 3rd floor. I never got to go before I left the city, but it's for the students that come through there.
Yeah.
That's how it all started.
Their webpage in years.
Well, Marty's got a question since we're kind of talking about train shows. He said he's going to the Bundaberg train show in 3 weeks. Want to know if anybody else is going. LOL.
I'm going to fly right now. I'll swim.
He said
I couldn't get
3 weeks.
tickets. I couldn't get airline tickets. Sorry, Marty.
Well,
Is he
I
treating
know.
you?
Yeah, well, I know I'm going the 24th to the local one here in Springfield. Their train show. It'll be on Saturday the 24th. So
I should say I couldn't get tickets, airline tickets in my price range for that show.
yeah.
You know,
Alrighty.
the colleges. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Andy.
You know, the college. You talk about schools that have these clubs in it. That's how the hobby got started originally. I mean, the very first model railroaders ever were a school group. You know, like a college group, like the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute is another one of those that has one of the longest standing clubs in the United States. They're like 80 years or something that they've worked on a series of layouts. But the very first model railroaders, the guys who from scratch decided, let's take the railroad and miniaturize that. The first ideas of model railroading at large was at the electronics department of a state college. I'll remember who it was here in a minute, but that was the very first model railroad to come out of a college. So there's a lot of history and legacy to the colleges having these groups. And it would be a great thing if somebody encouraged that to happen within electronics departments of colleges today. And it might be one of the best mechanisms to introduce youth to the hobby these days.
Oh, sure.
Well, we're trying to set. My club's actually trying to set up a display here at one of the local colleges with the engineering department.
Right.
Charles is saying that.
There's a lot of engineering involved in even just doing the model railroading.
Well, I'd have to say, with you look at your younger generation, they're the digital age, and for DCC decoders, Arduinos, and DCC and yada 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 and everything else, that's more of a natural for them than us older guys.
Well, that's why I say that the hobby has such an opportunity to explode. It'd be bigger than it ever was, period, because so much of the youth is interested in the DCC, the Arduino, the home automation, robotics, 3D printing, all the cool stuff that all of us struggle to understand the technology of, to integrate it into a hobby that we love and have pre-existing. A lot of these guys are starting with all of those things, and adding model railroading to that is just a natural fit, a way for them to extend those ideas into something real world.
I don't think it's the right age, because you're talking about high school or kids that are 14, 15. Those people already are starting with girlfriends and iPhone and games and things like that. You got to go down one step. Elementary, you got to get the kids, the younger kids. So technology is not there for those kids.
Maybe I don't know how you excite the youth about model railroading, except just model railroading on its own. And they may think it's neat, but the idea of actually getting them to do something with it. And at high school, maybe. I'm not ruling high school out. But it's the college level kids that I'm finding, the college level and early 20s that, and people who are first starting to come out of college with degrees in these things, who are interested in the 3D printing and the Arduino and stuff like that. I know I talk to them all the time in my electronics communities on the internet, and it's these early 20s guys who are interested in the technology, but are wanting something to do with what they've learned how to do, to actually have a practical thing to do with it. They know how to write this Arduino code, and they've built a few things to hook into their doorbell or to, whatever, to automate their coffee maker. Now they're looking for some way to take that little thing that first caught their interest and do something bigger and broader with it. And model railroading is such a good fit for the electronics integration, to give them an art creative outlet. But it's also the thing that I think we do a really, really poor job of selling our hobby on, is the social aspect of our hobby. Most model railroaders, or most people who think about model railroading, thinks it's, some old fella in his basement by himself doing this thing. And that's not at all the experience I've had as a model railroader. No, and it's not at all the experience I've ever had as a model railroader. My favorite part of the hobby is the group operating sessions and, the social and the gameplay part. But we don't tell people about that. The youth of the hobby, the new people entering in the hobby, or the people that would be interested in the hobby, are not hearing about that part. And I don't think the hobby's dying, as you've seen from our recent show. I don't think any of us think it's dying, but I think that it could be bigger than it was. Its heyday was in the early 1960s. Was the most popular our hobby ever was, and because of the number of people, the technology, and the internet, I think the hobby could be 20 times the size that it was at its biggest, if we introduce people to it, number one, and if we introduce them to it correctly.
I'll give you an idea. When I was in Kansas City at the convention, my bus was okay, but my local net, I had a problem with it. I couldn't get it to talk right at each end. And I was basically going to tell him, I said, just run right past my local net connection. 20-year-old kid, he gets underneath there, he starts looking, and he says, pretty soon, 5 minutes later, he comes back up. He says, here you go, sir, I found your problem, and we took care of it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
There's a college not too far from here in Elkins, West Virginia, D&E College, and they started a model railroad program there. They didn't do it from the electronics aspect, although they are incorporating that into the classes and stuff. They did it more from a business aspect and transportation and history end. and they're adding the electronics into that. But they've got quite a lot of kids that are really interested in the program.
But the thing is, if you look at model railroading, essentially what you have is you have everything in real life down into miniature.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could take almost any occupation and you could, with the exception of maybe say doctors, because I don't think the plastic figures need any medical help.
I know that everybody's got their own views on running trains. Some people would just like to see the train go round and round. Some others like operations. But personally, if you're going to get kids involved, you got to teach them about operations, because kids don't have what do you call it, a length of to keep busy. Attention. That's it. Their attention span is small. So if you're going to just show them a train that's going round and round, they're going to turn around and go watch TV or play with their whatever. So you got to, you got to get the parents involved, and that's going to be very tough. It's
Kansas City, I never ran a train. And everybody's, I had more fun sitting back, watching the crowd, watching people, wipe the saliva off their earlobes, because I was hoping I was, planting some images in their head. I know it was planted in my head a long time ago when I seen somebody had built a scratch-built building. And it was, way back when. I said, "Oh man, that is fantastic."
Mm-hmm. So there is a miniaturization of doctors as well, but it's just the plastic surgeons parts of it. It's dentists that I don't think are included. But I don't think anybody's interested in running trains round and round for more than about 20 minutes. And then no matter who they are, regardless of age, they're out of the hobby. I think there's only about 3 kinds of modelers: those who operate, those who build and don't care about the running, or the people who have a bunch of crap in the bottom of their closet. Because you're either one of those two, or it ends up in your closet. You have to find something to fall in love with, and that's either operating, or that's seriously scratch building or building everything to a high level. There's only those 2 kinds that are serious.
Well, I can say this from experience. Like with my son, he's extremely ADD. We went to Monticello, Illinois, and the local NMRA club over there had a layout, and they actually were letting the kids run the DCC engine, and they had a switching area on there. And my son sat there and he concentrated on doing the switching that the guy was telling him where to put the car. And he sat there that whole time and was, throttling the locomotive up, throttling it back, trying to get it right in that right position, and stopping right before a turnout and waiting on the guy to throw the turnout for him. I mean, he was. The operations is possibly where it's at for the kids to keep them interested.
I agree.
Yeah, Brian W. said that he's got a 10 and a 11-year-old. He said the Xbox is tough competition.
There's no question it is, and that's why just running trains or even just building it is probably the harder sell unless they're a certain type. You've got a certain type of youth that are hands-on artists, the kind of kids who fall in love with a paintbrush, but that's a very small audience. But the operations and the using of DCC and the sophisticated accessory control and stuff is very close to Xbox, PlayStation level of interaction, but in the real world.
I sort of have to disagree with you on that, Andy, because one of the most popular games right now for Xbox is Minecraft. Well, what are you doing on Minecraft?
Yeah,
building.
You're building. But
creating, yes.
That is a virtual world versus actually building something and being able to touch it in the real world.
Right, but I run into kids all the time in the technology world who ask me about gaming or whatever. Just like there's 2 types of model railroaders, there's 2 types of gamers, regardless of what they are. There are the people who like to build, and those are often playing Civilization and other games like that. Those are the role-playing guys, the MMORPG guys, the Minecraft guys. That's one type of gamer. And then there's the simulation type of gamer, whether that's car sim, first-person shooter, etc. And they're very, very different personalities, the 2 types.
Now, Dave Piper has got something to say about that one on that. He said the younger generation grew up with video games. They may be more interested in train sims rather than building a physical layout.
That's right, and there is an interest in that, but I think that suffers from a longevity problem as well. The people I know who are interested in railroad simulation get bored with that shortly. It has a limited exposure. Now, I don't think that is. I think that is a limitation of the technology, not of the future. And I agree that if we were 30, 40 years from now, maybe even 10 years from now, the debate would be how we can get these virtual reality guys to want to do something in the real world. But until the technology catches up with the VR or the virtual reality space, I think we've got a very easy sell to get those types of gamers interested in railroading.
But Andy,
if we do so ahead of the VR.
Andy, you're talking about a different category of age here.
I'll tell you,
I'm talking about 7, 8, 9 years old. That's who you should get involved in so many ways of the hobby. The people that are 14, 15, 16, you're going to have a hard time because they've already made pretty much their decision on what's important for them, and it won't be model railroad.
But I have no earthly idea how to win the 14, 15, 16-year-olds, but I also have no earthly idea how to win the 7 or 8-year-olds. The group of quote-unquote kids that I'm interested in, that's why I keep saying the entry to the hobby or the new people into the hobby instead of defining an age group, is the early to late 20-somethings. I think right now, people are coming back to the hobby in their late 40s and early 50s most typically. I think we can bring that number back 20 years. I do not know how to take that number back 30 or 40 years. Personally, I don't. I know it's possible. I believe it, all you guys that think it's possible. I just personally don't have any insight to it. But I talk to these 20-somethings all the time. I hire them, I fire them, I talk to them at all these conventions I go to. They are absolutely craving something new in the physical world. And the thing that they were most fascinated with, I just got back from Vegas from a convention, and there was a lot of people there my age and older, and a lot of younger people as well in their 20s. And the thing that they were most fascinated with of all the stuff I do, and I do a lot of really crazy technology, the thing that they were about the most fascinated with was the home automation. And then a few of the guys that I really buddied up with and did tell that I was a model railroader, absolutely, those guys who were interested in home automation, absolutely, almost were twitching in their seats about that because of that integration. Because I was talking about home automation, I said, well, it fit with this other hobby, this other weird hobby I have, I said. And, I seen their eyes light up. I've got a group
you
of
actually admitted you were a model railroader to somebody else. I mean, because that's always been the way it's been. It's kind of like we could all be in the same room if we didn't know we were model railroaders. We'd pass right by each other, and nobody would ever know that. Any of you guys were model railroaders.
Lionel Strang says it's like MI6. Nobody knows who it is. But I'll tell you what, I never just straight up tell anybody I'm a model railroader. If I've been talking to them for a while, that's right. And I always say it's this other weird little hobby. And I always feel like I'm excusing a little bit no matter what. But the only way I ever tell anybody about it, period, hands down, is when I'm talking about something else that interfaces with it, like home automation or when I'm talking to people at the chamber and stuff about working so much and about how I escape from that. Because I've had conversations with people a lot about what you do after work. And I have a little bit, but I've never done so without pulling up a picture on my phone and turning it around. Because always what I think they have in their mind, whether it's true or not, is a Lionel train sitting on the carpet around a Christmas tree or something else like that. They do not have an idea of what I think of as model railroading.
Right.
So I always pull up a picture, turn it around, and I show them the picture before I ever start with the actual words coming out of my mouth about it.
All right. You got 2 minutes because we're running over.
Yep. It's like I did the other day at work. I was talking to the guys, and I told them, some of the stuff I do in model railroading, and I was talking about the acid etching.
Yeah.
They're like, they're really interested in it. They're fascinated that I can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like my layout that I'm building. I have 4 levels of operation. First level, I have 2 loops, and that's what people want to watch the trains run and learn how to operate a train. The second level, I have Housatonic Railroad, which is in staging, and that only operates and switches cars in 2 industries. That's it, and it goes into another yard, but that's it. That's for somebody who wants to get into operations. Then the third level is somebody who is running Conrail trains around a few times and has to hook up and pull out blocks of cars in the yard. And then the fourth stage is the short line that I'm actually the real railroad that I'm modeling. And that is from one yard, bunch of industries, to another yard, to drop off, to pick up, to drop off, and do all that stuff. And so there's 4 levels of stuff that's complex and something that's easy to help people understand model railroading and the real thing, the real railroading.
See, I think everybody should do that, as I've talked about and talk about after the show in a little bit more detail. I think everybody building a layout should have, like you say, levels. I think of them as somewhat of depths of operating, but I think everybody short of, if you've got a 1 foot by 4 foot micro layout, that's different. But if you have a layout that is large enough or complex enough to have a diversity of operation, it's good for no matter what. Because if you have a group of 6 or 8 or 10 guys come by your layout, they're all going to have different interests, different level of experience, different not to be overly blunt in this case, but different levels of mental capacity, different ability to deal with this complex thinking. Some things like timetable and train order can be really, really complex if you get into the depths of it, and they may be super smart people, but there's a certain way of thinking about it. So having a diversity, having trains that require less complexity to operate and more complexity, or and like the switching, I wanted to chime in on that ADD conversation, but we'll skip that for some time later, because I think that is just a great opportunity for these 20-somethings that that having that focus would be much better for them than a prescription.
All right, that's it. We're going to run out of time, so you're going to have to stay tuned until next Thursday night for part 2 or round 2, whichever one you want to call it. Got one last thing here, Tim. Leland, he's down here in Georgia. He said, can you read the name of the boy? I believe is from Illinois, Wyman 300. What city do you live in? You mentioned Monticello and I think Springfield earlier. I grew up near Decatur. Small world.
I live in Evansville, Indiana. But I'm originally from Washington, Indiana, which is just a little bit south of Terre Haute.
Yeah, I think he's talking about Jason.
So Jason's one mentioned Springfield, which there's...
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, that's the capital of Illinois.
That's where nothing gets done.
Yeah. There hasn't been really much done. And, well, I'm not going to say it on this show, but there was something that happened today involved my city. So I'm not going to talk about that, but we'll talk on regular chat about that.
And then Andy's from Northern Illinois.
Yep.
Yep.
Actually, I'm not from there. I was originally from Detroit area, but now I'm here in Illinois, Northern Illinois.
You're there now.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, it's been a pretty lively discussion, so
yeah,
been a good one. Appreciate everybody coming in on the chat. Appreciate all you guys coming in on the panel here. And we shall see. Let's see what we got going on. Let's see. Yeah, we got a little bit going on next week. March the 12th, we got the Fine Scale Show. 13th, we've got the Big Bill Show, and then we're back to Thursday again.
Oh, busy week.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least for the production team.
Yeah, really.
They deserve a round for all those guys that must be behind Johnny getting all this work done, because there must be a bunch of people behind his curtain back there.
Yeah,
he's in Hollywood right now.
Yeah, Johnny ought to turn the
I can name each and every one of those people too. Me, myself, and I.
There you go.
In the next room, it's Fox News and CNN.
All right. Y'all have a good weekend. We shall see you next Tuesday night for the Pine and Scale Show. Y'all have a good evening and be safe.